Did you know that Europe imports 90% of its uranium? In this episode, we introduce District Metals, the company behind one of the largest uranium projects in Europe. Stick around. What you are about to hear could reshape Europe's energy future. Welcome, mining lovers. This is Charlando de Minas, the Spanish podcast dedicated to mining investment. Now, in English. Do you want to learn? Subscribe. Do you want more content in English? Leave us a comment. The episode is about to start. Welcome to Charlando de Minas, the only Spanish podcast dedicated to mining investment, today in English. If you're expecting to have this in Spanish, don't worry, you will have this interview translated to the language of Cervantes shortly. But today we have a very special interview with an exploration company with high potential projects in Sweden. Its future is close to tied to two key factors: exploration results and regulatory changes that could transform completely the company. Today, we're speaking with District Metals, which is trading in the Toronto Exchange with DMX, the OTC with DMX, CF, and in Frankfurt with DFBP. And joining us, the CEO, Garrett Ainsworth. Hello, Garrett. Thank you for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, Anadi.
No, thank you for coming. For those who don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what are the key experiences that led you to become CEO of District Metals?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a geologist by training. Really cut my teeth in the Athabasca Basin starting in 2007. I was a VP exploration for Alpha Minerals. I took a lead role in the discovery of the Triple R deposit. So I was involved with physically staking the ground, looking at all the assessment reports, finding high-grade uranium boulders. This is within the Southwest Athabasca in Saskatchewan, Canada. I did the trenching programs, the drilling program that led to the drill discovery, did some delineation. And the project was a 50-50 JV between my company, Alpha Minerals, and Fission Uranium. So in November, the drill discovery is November 2012. Fission Uranium bought out Alpha Minerals in November of 2013 for 189 million Canadian dollars. So it was a very good win. Won an industry award for my efforts on the discovery of the Triple R deposit. And then more recently, Fission Uranium got bought out for over $1 billion for that same asset not too long ago from Paladin. So, but then in 2014, I started as VP Exploration and Development with NextGen Energy. When I joined, the market cap was 50 million Canadian dollars, and when I left in 2018, the market cap was about 3 billion. It's reached upwards of $6 billion. So I had a lot of success at NextGen, leading the technical team, doing a lot of capital raising as well. And with the Arrow deposit discovery, a bunch of other discoveries that we made along that southwest corridor called the Patterson Lake Corridor. But and again, won some industry awards for my time at NextGen. So I really spent, a solid 11 years within the Athabasca Basin. And then in 2018, I got a hold of a shell company that became District Metals. Some very supportive shareholders, and I looked all over the world for a project that could get me excited, and wasn't necessarily looking for uranium because in 2018 no one really cared about uranium. I didn't see anything in Athabasca that was too exciting to me. But then I did find the Tomtebo polymetallic project, so base metal with some precious metals in it, and that was in 2020. So it took about a year and a half to find the Tomtebo project, and then the beginning of
Great,
district
great. I
happened
mean,
from there on.
it's a massive change, no? To change uranium from polymetallic, changing Canada for Sweden. I mean, a lot of changes. But can you give now then an overview of District Metals? What are the company main goals and how it differentiates itself from other junior explorers in Europe?
Yeah, so once we got going with District
Yeah,
Metals, we picked up the Tomtebo project in 2020. We did all the geophysical, geochemical surveys to get it drill ready. We had some really successful drill programs in 2021, 22,
yeah,
with some really good drill intercepts. Got more comfortable with Sweden as a jurisdiction, picked up a couple more base metal polymetallic projects in 2021. Gruvberget and Svarjo, and then in 2022 things started to become less perspective for base metal polymetallic projects just around the world. Like investors were not too interested. So, and the timing was funny because then a new center-right government came in to Sweden in September of 2022, and they had a platform to go pro-nuclear and to lift the uranium moratorium on mining uranium. So that piqued my interest. I started looking at uranium assets in Sweden, and lo and behold, I did remember the Viken deposit was around. So we started staking up very aggressively uranium polymetallic projects in late 2022 and into 23 and even into 24. So we built up this
yeah.
great portfolio of uranium projects. So there's really two parts to the business, whereby we've got the base metal polymetallic projects and we have the uranium polymetallic. And I think a lot of our valuation right now is on the uranium polymetallic, with
Yes.
flagship there being the Viken deposit of
Okay, yeah, it's true. I mean, you guys have basically two main projects: the polymetallic lead for the Tomtebo project, and all the uranium lead by the Viken deposit. And we will explore both areas of the business, and we get into detail of the value that you guys have added to it. And let's start maybe with the Tomtebo the project, because it's your first project and the one that has started the company and your most advanced asset. What are the geological features of this deposit, and what is the story of it? I mean, you said you basically were looking for something exciting, and you bought this Tomtebo project, and must be a reason behind it.
Yeah, so the main kind of thesis behind entering Sweden was that Tomtebo is located within the Bergslagen mining district that has two giant base metal polymetallic mines that are now both owned by Boliden. They're world class mines, and they're Garpenberg and Zinkgruvan. And then we looked around at other areas, and there's been very little or to no modern exploration. And then we were able to find the Tomtebo project, which fit that bill. It had historic mines on it, all sorts of occurrences for base metal polymetallic, but no one had ever given it use modern geophysical surveys. All the knowledge that's come, especially in the last 20-25 years with regards to these type of deposits, has been immense. So we saw a huge opportunity here with Tomtebo, and we jumped on it and have been quite successful. So, I mean, the deposit target types in the Bergslagen include like volcanic massive sulfides, and there's kind of a variation of a SEDEX type deposit.
Yeah.
There's also carbonate replacement. I would say Tomtebo is more of a volcanic massive sulfide. We've spent most of our time on the Tomtebo project in the southwest part of it, drilling around the historic Tomtebo mine, and that's where we've had really good intercepts that show mineralizations open at depth, long strike, and we're actually currently drilling Tomtebo right now at depth to see if we can extend mineralization down. So It's but things are going to change. We're actually going to start, moving off and drilling
Hmm.
some other parts of the Tomtebo project, like more the central and northeast part as well. It's a very large project.
Yeah.
It's over 5,000 hectares. There's just numerous targets all over it based on the geophysical surveys we've done. We've done, reconnaissance style mapping and sampling across the whole project. The history with Tomtebo is that and much of the Bergslagen is that there's been historical mining since
Hmm.
the 17th century or
Yeah.
even early in some
We'll go
cases.
into detail which are the specific exploration objectives that you have for 2025. But before that, let me ask you, what were the challenge of changing uranium mining or uranium deposit for polymetallics and changing from Canada to Sweden? You said that after a while you become a little bit more comfortable with Sweden. This means that probably the way changing, I don't know, in organizative way, politics way, or the way that people work. I don't know. How do you feel, or what were the challenge over there?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I will say, like going into a new jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty overwhelming initially. Just kind of not fully understand the permitting system, how the communities are, and then also just technically, like, how does the geology all fit together? It's quite complicated geology in the Bergslagen district, but I mean, we hired a really good team to put in place with a lot of experience with these type of base metal polymetallic deposits. So yeah, I mean, so it took us 6 months, 9 months to kind of, for me to get very comfortable with the permitting process, which is extremely fast. In the Bergslag, you can
Wow.
get your drill permit within 6 weeks. There's a form for everything. It goes very
Yeah, yeah.
quickly. I mean, coming from Canada, drill 2 years. In the US, if you're in US Forest Service, it can take 2 years or more, which is all ridiculous. So and it's really being driven by the current government in Sweden right
Uh-huh.
now. That's a center-right coalition, and they are so pro mining. It's very, very good, and they've got a lot of support from the EU to, they're a huge supplier of all sorts of metal and resources, but they have ambitions
Yeah,
to.
because in Europe you had this critical metals act or something like that, no, in order to protect and be able to generate the critical minerals that we need in Europe for Europe, right? And district metals really fits really well on this.
Yeah, especially given the
Yeah.
geopolitics that are going on around the world right now. It is the absolute, perfect narrative for us, advancing our projects that do have critical raw materials in them. And
Uh-huh.
that goes from the uranium polymetallic, which has vanadium and other CRMs, and then also, more the base metal
Great.
polymetallic.
On the Tomtebo project, you have collaborated with Boliden, a major player in the region. What kind of partnership do you have with them, and how this influence your technical and strategic development of the company?
Yeah. So we started talking to Boliden in late 2022 about because we had a very good relationship with them. A few of our geologists had
Hmm.
worked for Boliden for a number of years. They were very curious as to what we were up to at Tomtebo. So it took about a year for us to actually execute on a definitive agreement. But and that so in late 2023, we announced that Boliden had agreed to a $10 million option in over 4 years for our Tomtebo project, and they also, as part of the transaction, brought in their Stolberg property, which is only 35 kilometers away along the same metallogenic belt,
Hmm.
but it's actually more advanced than our Tomtebo project. So we get a 7.5% operator fee as we're the operator. And then after the 4 years, we're in year two right now, or we've just started year two. But after the 4 years is up and the $10 million has been spent, then a joint venture will form where Boliden owns 85% of both projects and District owns 15% of both projects. And 15% might not sound like a lot, but what we're looking for here is a giant base metal polymetallic deposit, such as what you find in Garpenberg and Zinkgruvan. So I would think that 15% of a deposit such as that would probably return a higher market cap than where we're at
One
today.
of the projects,
and that's just for that side of. Yeah, exactly. So we've been stepping out, very aggressively. And the good thing about partnering up with Boliden and not really having to worry about the capital markets because our funding is coming from Boliden is that we're able to step out more aggressively. And this is very important because we're looking for a large deposit, and we're fully aligned with Boliden in this collaboration.
Two questions here. The first is, I understand that because you have two properties that are just 35 kilometers one to another, is that you are looking here for a full district. It's not just a single project or a single mine, that you are looking really to expand into a district is.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of fits with the name. District scale is definitely front and center of everything that we do. You only live once, so I fully believe if you're going to do something, go as big as you possibly can, and guide yourself with good geoscience and smart people. And that just increases.
Okay, you said that after the fourth year, if Boliden keeps paying and fulfill this 10 million agreement, there will be a joint venture 85-15, right? After that, payments for exploring on everything, it will be 85-15 as well, or there will be any other kind of arrangement? That's good.
No, that's correct. So then it becomes so on a $10 million budget, then for a year, then we would only have 15% of that, so 1.5.
I was looking for the drilling of the last years, and as you said, there is such impressive drill intercepts. I was looking, there is to highlight only 30 meters, 7% of zinc, 1.9% lead, or there is another almost 30 meters as well, 1% copper and 0.7 grams ton of gold. These are really good results, no? And the question is, how these have impacted, in your geological model, and now if these have influence in the areas that are your top priorities for future drilling.
Yeah, so these drill results that you've just highlighted here are, at or greater than the grades that are currently mined in the Bergslagen district. So that's very important to note. Hole 28 and 42 were drilled into the Steffenberg zone, which is part of the historic Tomtebo mine. Hole 42 is actually one of the deepest holes into the mineralized body there. So mineralization's open at depth and partially along strike from hole 42. So the current drilling that we're doing right now is actually drilling underneath that. And the cool thing is we get to use Boliden's downhole electromagnetic survey, which is proprietary technology that they have developed. And it's very good at detecting weak conductors, because these conductors in the Bergslagen are often quite weak because there's a lot of zinc in this mineralization, and the zinc as a mineral is called sphalerite, and sphalerite is not conductive. So you're more hoping on like the lead sulfides and the copper sulfides to generate a bit of a weak conductor, and that's what you're looking for. So you need a very sensitive tool for that. But it's great. We've got a $3 million budget between Tomtebo and Stolberg for this year. So we're prioritizing drilling at the historic Tomtebo mine, and then after that we'll look to drill more to the we're going to be actually going away from the historic Tomtebo mine for the first time ever. We're going to move to the center of the property where Kavista Badiat target is. It's never being drilled. It's got coincident geophysical, geochemical anomalies, and it's got a series of historical, I would say, kind of like sulfide pits that are all in a nice line that actually line up back to the Tomtebo, historic Tomtebo mine to the southwest. So this is really set up nicely for a potential drill discovery. And then later on, maybe after the summer, we'll look to move a drill rig up to the northeast end of the Tomtebo mine. To the northeast end of the Tomtebo property, where there's the historical Lovas mine, which we've never drilled it. It's quite a significant historic mine, and it mineralization down to 190 meters. The historic data that we've looked at shows mineralization is open in all directions, so we'll be looking to drill underneath to try to extend things, because the depth extent here is very important with these type of deposits. At Garpenberg and Zinkgruvan, they've got resources down 1,600 meters, and they're mining it very profitably, around 1,400 meters at Garpenberg, and 1,300 meters at Zinkgruvan. So to have mineralization down to 200 meters that's open, that's
great.
A good place to start.
You just have named your high priorities drilling for this year, and what it sounds to me is that you are looking for a discovery, for a change in the story of this deposit. But because it's let's say a 4-year story that you are building now, what are the next step? I mean, you are doing probably a discovery this year. The next step will be explore around this discovery. At the end of these 4 years, you are aiming to get a resource or a PEA, or these 4 years is just full exploration and trying to find something that is really meaningful, even if you don't get a PEA or resource estimate until all these years.
Yeah, so getting to a mineral resource estimate and then subsequently to a PEA all depends on drill results that are very good, and so you can never guarantee that you're going to make a discovery or whatnot. But we kind of have a mix from a high level. We have a mixed approach for our exploration at Tomtebo and Stolbede. In that we're targeting areas that as stepping out from known mineralized zones to grow and increase the tonnage. Because if we, the idea is we want to get these zones for a start to at least 10 million tons. And then I think we would hit the button on a mineral resource estimate. We're obviously not there yet. And then, of course, the other part of our plan for this year is to go to brand new targets that have never been drilled, but they have, coincident anomalies, geophysical, geochemical, also mapping, good results from geological mapping, and then drill those to try to make a drill discovery, because I think the market, we love drill discoveries, and I think the market loves it a lot too. They're more exciting than just stepping out from known.
All of the results that you already have, that we just named it and highlighted, and you said it's above a lot of economical mines in Sweden. If you don't hit any discovery, will be these areas enough to get, a PEA and a resource estimate or something like that as a plan B, or these results are not just enough to build a mine and proceed you with the district?
Yeah, we don't know yet until we drill whether we've reached that threshold where we'll hit the button to do a mineral resource estimate. We're not there yet, but yeah, the drilling, the $3 million budget this year will help us to kind of get to that decision point. And so to put it in a bit of context, like $3 million exploration budget for us really means that we'll be drilling between 7,000 and 8,000 meters that will be split between Tomtebo and Stolberg.
Yes.
So it's a pretty healthy drill budget of 3,500 to 4,000 meters for each project.
Perfect. Let's move to the Viken project. Let's scale uranium and vanadium deposit. Maybe could you tell us a little bit more, how do you acquire it in a context in which once a value that had this deposit and have a value of 300 millions end up just releasing in a symbolic value?
It's a great story, and I'd love to tell it. So thanks for asking. In early 2023, we staked up 68% of the Viken deposit, and the ground was just open. And that's because of the uranium moratorium that was in place. People had kind of forgotten about uranium in Sweden. So it only cost us $10,000 to keep that in good standing for 3 years. And then there was another private person who had staked up the remaining 32%. They used to be a geologist for the company called Continental Precious Minerals that previously had owned the Viken deposit. So he knew all about it. And so it took us a year again to figure out a transaction with this private person. But we acquired the remaining 32% of the Viken deposit for $100,000 cash, 4.5 million shares, and a 2% royalty. But then was very good earlier in 2025, this year. We actually acquired the 2% royalty for about 500,000 shares. So now we have 100% of the Viken deposit, and it is free and clear of any royalties. So we're in a really good spot there. And then going back to Continental Precious Minerals, so they advanced the Viken deposit from 2005 until about 2018. They reached a market cap of 330 million in the last uranium cycle. I gotta say, I'm not impressed with the work that they did. Like, having looked back at everything, they did not maximize the potential value of the Viken deposit. But putting that aside, I'm excited that we have ways to make it really good going forward with mineral resource estimates and in the future to do a updated preliminary economic assessment. But Continental was obviously hurt in 2011 when Fukushima happened. So then they were kind of limping along. And then the Swedish government, which was a center-left government, maybe more just left, they actually put a ban on uranium mining in 2018. And that totally killed Continental. They ended up selling it to a private company that tried to develop it for the vanadium, and they couldn't raise money because right around 2018, vanadium went up to $30 a pound, but it was a pretty quick blip. But essentially then the mineral licenses just got forgotten about, and they lapsed, and the ground was wide open, and that became the opportunity for District Metals.
Great story. Now that the comment period for lifting the uranium ban in Sweden has ended, what are the next steps, and when do you think that the draft of the law will be released?
Yeah, so on March 20th, that was the deadline for all the stakeholders, which included District Metals, to submit our comments regarding the inquiry report into lifting the uranium moratorium. And it was very positive. It gave recommendations as to, why the moratorium should be lifted, how it should be lifted, and when it should be lifted. So this provided us with a lot of confidence, and that's why we're actually have started some quite significant work on our Swedish uranium properties. So the next steps here are the government is working on a proposed bill that will go to Parliament to be voted on in September 2025. And the government actually has this in the schedule for the Swedish Parliament. And they've also advised that they have a majority to approve this bill in September. So for us, September, getting that bill approved, that's like the green light to go. But it should be noted that legislation in Sweden, it only changes 2 times a year, January
Wow.
1st and July 1st. So the actual legislation to allow uranium mining won't happen until January 1st, 2026. But I mean, like I said, when it gets voted on in September of 2025, and if it should be approved, hopefully, then that
Great.
is the goal for us.
And beyond the legal
Full
aspect,
speed.
what is the current public perception of uranium in Sweden at a community level?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's probably better if I could
Yeah.
break it up into 2 different groups. Like from a national level, the Swedish are very smart. They're very common sense people. They're very pragmatic, and they realize that nuclear energy is essential for Sweden to obtain and get to the green energy transition. And then they also realized that 100% renewables is not the way to do it. So there is a majority that supports nuclear energy in Sweden, and there's also a majority in Sweden that supports securing a domestic supply of uranium to fuel those reactors and not be dependent on Russia,
Yeah.
Kazakhstan, Niger, in order for Sweden to get carbon-free electricity. So, and then there's more on the local level. And I'll say on the local level, there's definitely some NIMBY, not in my backyard sentiment. I mean, find this all over the world, but so I think there's some diehard anti-mining people on the local level. There's some people that are neutral that I think can be won over through communication and good outreach and whatnot. And then there are those that understand that this is just what's done in order to get a secure supply of not just uranium but critical raw materials. So for us, it's going to be very important when the moratorium lifts to do a lot of community work.
Okay, I mean, the logical said that the law will be approved, that everything will work, and on January 1st, you are able to start working on the Viken deposits. But what happened if the ban is not lifted? What will be the impact for the company? And if you have considered any contingency or plan B to cover this scenario?
Yes. I mean, I would expect if September comes and the bill to lift the moratorium is not approved, I would expect our share price would drop.
Yeah.
That makes common sense. It would probably overreact to the downside. But then it would also depend on what other language was used. Like, are they just delaying it, or is it never going to be approved ever? So you got to weigh those parts into it in a worst case scenario. And then I think some, after that initial drop, if that were to happen, then I think more rational behavior would come in and people would realize, well, hey, the Viken deposit's not just uranium. It's actually, vanadium, it's got potash, it's got nickel, molybdenum, zinc, copper, it's got rare earth elements. And we could actually move forward and start permitting a mine at Viken just for those other metals and minerals. But we would have to put uranium back into the tailings, which is obviously not optimal from an economic standpoint, but also from an environmental point. You want to get that uranium out. So it's low grade uranium, but there's no point putting it back in the ground once you've dug it up when there's value there. So I think that's one thing that would help recover with the share price, especially because Viken deposits are alum shales, and we have many other alum shale properties with these critical raw materials. I would also hope that the market would see our base metal polymetallic projects, Tomtebo and Stolberg, would add a bit of a cushion, would kind of support a valuation. So it's not like if you take away if you don't lift the uranium moratorium, there's nothing else left to district. We're actually with a dynamic company. And then I'll also add that, I'm always looking at projects all over the world all the time. So, I mean, if a project really piqued my interest and I felt like it would add, good shareholder value, then that might be a good time to move forward, even if it's outside of Sweden. So I mean, that's kind of what happened with the base metal polymetallic. The market wasn't giving it good value, so we started looking at
Alternatives.
other ways to bring value, and then we got into the uranium and found the Viken deposit. So you got to be nimble in this market for sure.
You said, and it's a question that I also have, that the Viken deposit have relatively low grades in comparison with it's now on the market. No, it has a really large tonnage, but it has low grades. Then, what it makes economically attractive with these low grades?
So I mean, first off, I would say that the uranium on its own is fairly low grade. It's comparable to uranium deposits in southern Africa, but when you add the uranium to the vanadium, the potash, the molybdenum, the zinc, the copper, the earths, you actually realize that the rock is worth quite a bit of money per ton. And as long as you can completely
well, this is my next question. How this impact on the metallurgy? Because you said vanadium, zinc, rare earth, potassium, nickel, molybdenum. I mean, this is a lot of metals, and I will guess that the circuits that you will need to have for concentrates of those metals, I mean, it's complex at least, and that you will need as well a lot of capex in order to separate and makes different circuits. Therefore, I mean, how complicated is this? And if you have studied some of, you have seen similar examples, maybe in another past deposits that you have worked with, or what the comment can you do in this regard?
Yeah, before I dive into the metallurgy, though, I have one more point with regards to low grade uranium deposits, and something that's really interesting, because I started digging down in the last uranium cycle on monetizing events for uranium deposits. And in the last uranium cycle, there were 2 multi-billion-dollar monetizing events that were higher than any monetizing event that occurred out of the high-grade uranium Athabasca Basin during that same time. So Areva bought Uramin, I think it was 2007, 2008, for about US dollars 2.5 billion. And then in 14 or 13, CGN, Chinese state-owned nuclear company, bought Extract Capital for 2.2 billion Australian dollars. So both of these companies had very low-grade uranium deposits in southern Africa that were much smaller than our Viken deposit, and they did not have vanadium or any of those other metals or minerals that would make the rock value much higher per ton. So I think that's something to put into perspective, that's really, really important. But yeah, okay. So, and then jumping back into the metallurgy. So I've got to be careful, like, how I talk about the metallurgy right now, because there is a historical preliminary economic assessment on the Viken deposit from 2014. I'm not allowed to talk about it because it's historical, and that's why we'll be looking to do an updated PEA. But I mean, the recoveries were okay, and that was in 2014. But there's been more recent technical studies that I've seen that are available publicly. Aura Energy put one out on their Hagen deposit, and some of the metallurgical recoveries there are very, very good. I would encourage your listeners to go take a look at what they return there. And the thing is, once you dig up these alum shells that are part of the Viken deposit, it's a very soft rock. So then it just becomes a metallurgical and chemistry test to extract what you can out of it. And also, say, in Finland, they've got a black shale deposit called Talvivaara, or I guess it's also called Sotkamo, and it's run by Terra Fame. So it's very low grade in terms of, it's mostly nickel, copper, zinc. That's, got grades of 0.1% on all three. But they have 20 parts per million uranium. So that's 0.002%. That's like 10 times lower grade than Viken. And they are actually recovering the uranium from this black shale deposit in Finland. And they're doing it because it's a bioheap leach. And so they sprinkle a solution on top it's got bugs in it, like bacteria. It breaks down all the rock. It liberates the metals. And the uranium concentration
it's with Newton or
solution.
technology or something like that, or another company.
It's a partially state-owned company called Terra Fame. Yeah. But in order to put the recovery circuit in for the uranium, it costs 10 million euro to do that, and they're now saying that they're going to produce 500,000 pounds of uranium per year, which will cover all of their uranium needs for their current nuclear reactors. So I think that's by just adding 10 million euros to be able to pull out the uranium, I think is a very positive. And the grades are so low, it's ridiculous. But I don't see the future at this point, and it could change, but I don't see the future of mineral processing for the Viken deposit being a bioheap leach because it takes up too much surface area. I think the better route would be to do a smaller mineral processing facility using like an acid pressure leach, and then there's a whole bunch of streams that go from there to recover the different
great. I mean, I think that it's really good that you can put some examples, as you said, of other deposits with even lower concentration of uranium, that they recovered uranium and that they are able to separate efficiently different metals like nickel, copper, zinc, things that you already have on the Viken deposit, and how somehow demonstrate the possibility of having a good metallurgy in this deposit. The question that I have, and it's a little bit outside of this, and it's legal, why you are not allowed to talk about the historical results on metallurgy or anything like that? I understand that it's another company and maybe you cannot take responsibility for the study that someone else have done, but it's something that the market blocks you to talk about this historical, or and why,
Yeah, so it's just part of the NI 43-101 regulations that are enforced by the BC Securities Commission. So although Continental Precious Minerals did a 2014 preliminary economic assessment and mineral resource estimate that was at that time NI 43-101 compliant, they were the ones that did it. So now that we own the property, we did not do that. That PEA, we're not allowed to claim. We're not allowed to talk about it because it makes it look like we've done it and we're taking responsibility for it. So we have to do our own in order for us to communicate, the details of it. So it's also now, so it is very much
okay. Now we can put us in the future. The ban is lifted, and what are the technical steps that you will take? Are you planning maybe a resource update, some drilling maybe before, and then rushing a little bit to the PEA, or what will be the plans that you will do just after the ban is lifted and we are, let's say, in 1st of January on 2026?
Yeah, so in December of 2024, the government put out enough positive information about lifting the moratorium that we've actually already started to do an updated mineral resource estimate for the Viken deposit. So I think we put out news on that like in early February. We should have it completed and news released out within Q2 this year. I guess we're in
Yeah.
Q4 right now, so let's say May is probably when we'll have it ready. I'm pretty excited because we're also looking at other metals to bring in that weren't previously done. I should mention that historically, the full suite of rare earth elements was not done at the Viken deposit. So, when we go to do a PEA, we'll probably have to go back to historical drill core and reanalyze to make sure that we have the full suite of rare earths, because the value of the rare earths, even if you have recoveries of 30 to 50%, it
Of course.
all adds value per ton, and it as a byproduct. So if you get it out of the ground, you've got it crushed up, you've got it in your facility, you might as well try to extract it. And I think recover it. And I think it just becomes more valuable, especially in the EU, because so many of these rare earths are critical raw materials. So it helps you out with permitting. It puts a better light on the project, other than just saying, it's just a uranium deposit. So I think that's very good. So, and then in terms of starting an updated preliminary economic assessment, we would look to initiate that after September, when the government has hopefully approved the bill to lift the uranium ban. Then that's our green light to start an updated PEA.
Yeah.
And we might need to do some more drilling to do metallurgical work. So I mean, the completion of that might be second quarter of
but
2026.
Then we can say that in 2026 you will have a PEA of the Viken deposit.
Definitely. Yeah.
How do you envision mining at Viken? It will be an open pit because it's low grade, have to be underground because it's Sweden. How it work? Or how do you envision that?
Yeah. Good question. I get asked that quite a bit. So it has to be an open pit. Absolutely. Underground would never work. It's too soft of a rock. In situ leachate would never work because it's a shale, so it's not very permeable. You would need to frap it. That's just a terrible word. At a lot of grade, that would not be good for social license. So open pit, but the key thing is to do a small open pit to make it like more of a quarry size. And we've been talking to our consultants, and I think the path forward here is to do a kind of a hybrid open pit with strip mine. So that as you're advancing the face of your open pit, you're also reclaiming the other end of it. I think that's really important, because if you can show the local community that, hey, listen, this is what it looks like after we have mined. We're just putting back tailings, dry stacking it, and then we're putting topsoil on top, and we're replanting it. And we're gonna introduce all sorts of rare plants and trees and whatnot, and make the biodiversity better than it was before. So I think that's really good. And something to note about the mineralized alum shale that's the host rock for the Viken deposit. It's very soft. You can pick it up in your hand and crush it for the most part. Some parts maybe not, but it is a shovel and truck type operation. So you don't really need to blast. I mean, some areas
it will be something similar to like a carbon mining, let's say.
Graphite. Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly it. There's a lot of graphite within this alum shell, so it's very soft and very platey. It breaks in your hand quite easily. And having a shovel and truck type operation, that's gonna decrease
a lot.
The OpEx, I think, quite well.
And what is your long-term strategy with Viken? I mean, are you looking for a strategic partner, developing maybe a joint venture? I mean, you already have a lot of experience in joint ventures and finding partners, to add value to projects.
Yeah, so we're an exploration and development company. I'm a geologist by training. I'm very comfortable going from exploration, discovery, delineation, development, and very comfortable to take things to the feasibility level. And I think the key would be to look for a monetizing event from a larger company as we advance the project. But then, if we get to the point of a feasibility study and there has not been a monetizing event, I would, have to say that the best path forward, if the company decided that the best path forward is to build a mine, then that would be time for me to find a proven mine builder to take over my role as CEO. Because my passion really isn't in building a mine and operating a mine. So I'm more on the earlier stage stuff. I would still stay involved, obviously, but I think those are the two different paths, like either monetizing event or have a proven mine builder take over
at this point.
At that point.
Yeah, sorry.
Also, in terms of partnerships for Viken, I really don't think we need any partnerships. Like, the asset is so good that I think we'll always have funding and financing available to advance the project. From development and further on. Like, I could see, it would be a great candidate for debt financing, for building a mine there and whatnot. It is, and that's all would be underpinned by economic studies that show.
I know that it's really early, but did any major came and show any interest for the Viken deposit, and more thinking about the uranium band lift and everything?
Yeah, I mean, we actually surprisingly have had quite a bit of inbound interest from majors, but also from junior companies, asking if any of our projects are available to option, and we've kind of come to the conclusion.
Yeah, for sure.
That is when the lift officially happens. We don't want to be doing an option at a discount just because the moratorium hasn't lifted yet. So, Viken, we definitely want to maintain 100%, not do any options on it. But our other uranium projects, I think we would be open to optioning and bringing in a partner and funding, because obviously we have 5 uranium projects, with one of them, the alum shale properties, really being a bunch of different properties. So, having financial help come in and maybe even have someone else come in and operate might not be bad.
You just said you guys have as well 5 other uranium projects. Maybe you can briefly touch on those projects and explain it a little bit, what is the role in the whole corporate strategy, if there is any of those that you believe that have more potential than the others.
Yeah. So in 2023 and 2024, we picked up 4 other projects other than the Viken, that include the alum shale properties, which again is a package of properties. And that's the alum shale properties are essentially targeting another Viken deposit. So it's a few about 150 kilometers to the northeast of the Viken. So it's good to have different geographic location within Sweden. And then our Sockjarn and Nyenfors properties are different. They're not alum shale. They're actually intrusive rocks that are intruding into metasedimentary rocks. They have historical mineral resource estimates, some really good boulder samples. The grades here are much higher. Some of them are over 1% U3O8 in terms of boulders and drill intercepts. Mineralization's outcropping at surface. The deposits or exploration targets are open in all directions.
Yeah.
So these are going to be a lot of fun to go after, and they haven't seen attention since like the 1980s. And then the last project that we have is a bit further up north, Ardnasvarre, and that's also, it's got some different styles of uranium deposits that have been identified on it. It's got intrusive related, It's also got sandstone-hosted uranium mineralization, and there is potential for unconformity style mineralization that you would see in the Athabasca Basin. So there's the same age sandstone sitting on top of the same age basement rock that you would find in the Athabasca. We know there's uranium in the sandstone. We know there's uranium in the basement, but no one's looked at the unconformity. That is actually what I did for 11 years in the Athabasca Basin. So we'll be keeping our eyes wide open for that. But we've got some really good starting points at Ardnasvarre, and that, you know, at the Labas zone, there is a historical mineral resource estimate. There's all sorts of boulder trains that have good grades of uranium, you know, over 1% uranium. And again, a story where there's not been any modern systematic exploration. So we would hit it with, you know, the necessary airborne geophysics, the groundwork, and then get it up.
It's really funny how I see the excitement in your face when you are talking about all of these explorations of uranium. No, I guess that it comes back that all the exploration that you have done and all the excitement of discovery and finding new things. It's a little bit like the R&D, no, of the mining, really, the exploration. I would like if you could comment briefly on the uranium market today. I mean, you have been on the industry for a long time and being in different stages of the different feelings on uranium. And how do you see that it's performing today? I mean, in the last few years, we have seen a kind of a bull market, but stayed for a while at $100 the pound, and then it came back again, and the stocks are not really responding to the price of the uranium at the moment. I don't know, how do you see that everything is going on, and how do you place it in a bull market? Or maybe you don't believe that we are in a bull market right now. I don't know.
I do. Yeah, absolutely. So I believe the bull market started, I think it really kind of started taking shape after COVID, like in 2020, and then started to pick up pace with this green energy transition. You know, all cars are supposed to go electric vehicles, and you know, data centers for AI, all that. But I mean, that's just froth, though. I mean, the real meat and potatoes is all the reactors that are being built right now, that are being proposed or planned and proposed to being built. So, you know, in early 2024, the spot price of uranium got up to $106 per pound. And I think it got ahead of itself. That people got a bit too exuberant, and it ran further than it should have. So it's then it started correcting. I think it was around mid 2024, and unfortunately, then the tariff talk started happening, and that really has hurt uranium. My understanding is that the U.S. Nuclear utilities, they're not buying any uranium because they're waiting to see what's going to happen with the tariffs. So the buying has dried up, and the spot market is pretty thin. So it doesn't take a lot. And, you know, now it's come down to $64 a pound. Unfortunately, the uranium companies follow the spot price, which is not really fair, because they should be following more the fundamentals, and they should also be following the long-term price of uranium, which is still at $80, which is a very good price. Like, if you're not able to make a profit at $80 uranium, then maybe you shouldn't be developing that uranium asset. But my take right now is that obviously there's a lot of market turbulence with the tariffs and everything, but I believe we're fully within you know, a uranium bull market, and we're just taking a breather right now. And I'm good if this takes longer to go up. Like, it's the worst thing you can have is a uranium market that spikes up and spikes right back down.
It's $80 an incentive price for building new mines, or it's not? Yeah.
$80. Some mines, like, I mean, definitely certain in situ leachate mines. I think $80 a pound for the Viken deposit would be wonderful, because it's not just, you're not just getting the value
of the other things.
you're getting the value out of the vanadium, ash, and everything else. So, yeah, and pricing that was done in previous economic studies used lower than $80 per pound uranium for the Viken, and other technical studies that I've seen on
and do you think that the current uranium mining company valuations are according to this $80 uranium? Because I remember like that some of the uranium mining companies have a very similar valuation like 3 or 4 years ago. It's like that they have been up and down, like with the markets, just with the flavor of the day. But there is really not an increase of valuation in general of the sector, even though like the uranium it increased substantially the price.
Yeah. Well, I think $80 is a very healthy price for uranium. Obviously, some people want to see $200 per pound, but then that gets kind of ridiculous. And my thought is, whenever you hear people talk about when the price gets so high that people talk about recovering uranium from water, that's a good time to sell you stock.
Yeah, good advice.
So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think the share prices of a lot of the uranium companies did go up quite substantially with the spot price going up, but they've almost been hurt more, going from $106 per pound to $64 a pound. Like you said, they've gone back to levels where the uranium price.
For investors that are joining today to District Metals, what are the key milestone or catalysts that are expected for a year? Let's say that we meet again on April of 2026.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, right now we're drilling the Tomtebo base metal polymetallic project. So, in the coming weeks, we should have some update from that. And again, that's fully funded by Boliden. Probably the next really big one, though, that will catch the market's attention will be the updated mineral resource estimate for the Viken deposit. And yeah, we should have that out hopefully in the month of May, so next month. And then we'll be starting some significant work on our Swedish uranium properties in probably starting in May, going hopefully into Q3. But that also kind of depends on how the markets are. If we're really going into a significant market drop here and a recession, then we'll kind of we can be quite flexible in pulling back from spending too much money based on how the markets are doing. And then obviously the most important catalyst, I would say, for District Metals is in September, when that bill is going to be voted on in Parliament. The Swedish government says they have a majority to approve the bill. I would think that upon an approved bill to lift the moratorium, then we should have a re-rate of our valuation. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point before September, the share price of District starts kind of marching higher in anticipation of that bill hopefully being passed.
Do you have money to work on the Viken deposit or do you will need to raise capital once the ban is lifted?
I mean, we've got about 3.8 million in the treasury right now. It really depends how much work we do on our Swedish uranium projects, depending on whether we need money to do the updated preliminary economic assessment. Something also to keep in mind is that we've got about 20 million warrants. So 10 million warrants at a 20% strike price, and 10 million warrants at a 30-cent strike price. So, if those all get exercised, and they're not expiring until March 23 and like February 27. But if those all get exercised, then that would bring $5 million right there. So in that case, we definitely would not need to finance in order
Perfect.
to do
the last two questions. We have talked a lot about the project and a lot about you, but what are the other key members of your technical team, and maybe what are the strengths that you have with those members?
Yeah, so I mean, on the technical front, obviously I'm leading the charge on the uranium polymetallic side of things. One of our technical advisors, Galen McNamara, is we work together at NextGen. So we're always going back.
The CEO of Suma Silver, right?
Yeah. Correct. Exactly. Yep. So we go back to about 11 years now. And then on the base metal front, we've got Hein Ratz, our VP exploration. He was with Boliden for 10 years or so. He's worked in Sweden for twice that amount. He knows base metal polymetallic targets inside out. He knows permitting extremely well. Community relations is a big part of what he does. And then Rodney Allen is our technical advisor, who really is famous for writing multiple technical papers on the style of these giant base metal polymetallic deposits in Sweden, but also knows an extreme amount about other volcanic massive sulfide deposits around the world. And one of his claims to fame is being part of the technical team, leading the technical team that made some key discoveries at the Garpenberg mine in the late 1990s that took that mine from near closure to now being a tier 1 asset for Boliden. So his guidance is being huge, and what he knows. And then we've also got some amazing geologists in the European geologists. Two of them have just got their PhDs, and they're being mentored by Hein and Rodney. And then we've got one geo that's based out of Sweden, and they're all very keen, very excited to be doing the work. And that's really a huge part, is having a team that has the right
ownership, motivation.
It doesn't matter if they're PhDs, but if they exactly. And then just on the executive, more like executive side. So obviously I'm the CEO. I work very closely with our CFO and corporate secretary, Marlis Yassin. She's been, very critical in doing some very important initiatives for district that include, recently we just got our listing on the NASDAQ First North growth market. And it wasn't an easy process by any means, but she did an amazing job of stick handling that process, along with all the other different and new processes that get thrown our way from
Great. And last question before ending up, from your point of view, what are the biggest risks of the company, and how you are addressing this risk?
Yeah, so I would say markets in general. It's like that. That's something that we can't control, but we can definitely manage, the company around how the stock markets the capital markets are acting. I mean, if we really are going into a significant market crash here, then we can act quite quickly and slow down exploration to conserve cash. Obviously, we're in a pretty good cash position, and then we've got Boliden funding the base metal polymetallic. So we're in a good spot, but you don't really want to go full speed ahead when the market's on a free fall downward. So yeah, and then I guess more on the medium term risk of things. If the uranium moratorium is not lifted, then that's definitely a risk for the share price going down on District. I'm not really too concerned about that risk, given all the communication from the Swedish government. It sounds like they are absolutely determined to lift this uranium moratorium. It is one of their key priorities to do this. But again, it is politics, and so there's nothing is 100%.
Thank you, Gareth, for your insightful conversation. I mean, it's been a pleasure to learn about District Metals and to comment all the catalysts and things that are going on in this exciting year. We really look forward to the company journey, and we will be following the news across this year. And I will give you the final minute to speak directly to our listeners. If you want an insight, the last minute is yours.
Yeah, great. So I mean, first off, thanks very much for having me, and I appreciate your listeners that have made it this far, for listening to me talk. I would implore them to keep an eye on District, and really the main catalysts here are our updated mineral resource estimate on the Viken deposit. That really is where we're getting most of our valuation. So I'd keep an eye for that coming, in hopefully in May of this year, next month. Also, keep a keen eye on September and what happens with the uranium moratorium, hopefully being lifted in that month. Those will be key events for the company. And then also, if you have any questions or want more information, please subscribe to District Metals. It's on the homepage of our website, and you could also send us an email to the info@districtmetals.com, and happy to answer follow-up questions from there. Great.
Disclaimer. The content in Charlando de Minas is not an investment advice. Amadeu Bonet and his guests are not investment advisors. The authors may have interest in the companies mentioned in this publication. They may also have bias and not be impartial. The information in this publication and all the others in Charlando de Minas is impersonal by nature and should be considered as an entertainment product. The minimum risk of any investment mentioned in this video is 100% of the capital. Before to make any investment decision, contact a financial or investment advisor or someone qualified with experience. These broadcasts are a narrative of my learnings in the world of commodities and mining investment. In this podcast, we will try to bring experts, professionals, and companies. If you like it, please subscribe. I am Amadeu Bonet. Welcome to Charlando de Minas.